Hello, hello, and welcome to the podcast. I am very lucky today to be joined by the one and only James Humphries-Stone. So, James, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
That's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm more than welcome, and congratulations as well. I hear we've just hit the 3 year anniversary of the Avenue.
Yes, so the Avenue turned free at the beginning of July. That time has absolutely flown by.
I can imagine it's always the way, isn't it? You kind of launch a business and think to yourself, oh, the first 6 months takes a while, but after that, it all just goes past very, very quickly.
Absolutely.
So talk us through the background of yourself then, 'cause I know when we first connected, we suddenly realised that we both worked in the same sort of towns around the same sort of time. So talk us through your sort of background with regard to estate agency, how you first got into it, and where you kind of got to where you are now.
Yeah, cool. So I've been an estate agent since 2004. So in September, I will have been doing this as my career for 20 years. I've done it my entire life. It's one of those where I went through school. Would I call myself the archetypal teenage lad? Probably. Loved sport. Wasn't big into the school system, but big into sport and everything else that went with it. And I left school with no GCSE. Well, I had one GCSE in French. Just a side note here, and this is why I'm fascinated by human psychology and the way people learn and the way people think and behave. And it was only in later life that I realised I'm an incredibly visual learner. And over 60% of the human race are visual learners. And it just so happens that my French teacher was very visual in the way she demonstrated her lessons. And so I ended up getting a good grade in French and sport. They were the only two I got good grades in. So anyway, left school, wanted to go and get a job, but didn't really know at that point what I wanted to do. So I thought, I had a couple of good tutors at school who said, you should do your A levels, you're good at maths and you're pretty good around the business side of things. So why don't you go down that, the A level road on those? So I did. Anyway, 6 or 7 months later, bumped into an old school friend who had become an estate agent. And he basically, long story short, said to me, James, I think you'd be really good at doing what we do. Come and meet my boss. Went and met him, got on really, really well. And it was only afterwards that I turned around to this lad. His name was Tom. And I was like, Tom, why do you think I'd be a good estate agent? Like, well, because you talk quite a lot and you're pretty good with people. And as far as I'm concerned, that they are the main credentials. This was like 20 years ago. Anyway, his boss offered me a job, and that was in a town called Camberley, so south side of Surrey. I grew up in a town called Yateley in Hampshire, which obviously is only 45 minutes from where you're from. And several months later, we merged with a firm that was based in Basingstoke. And by which point I'd risen through that local business to assistant manager level. I mean, how can someone with zero experience at the age of 18 become an assistant manager in a state agency, Chris? Like,
Yeah,
just
it's probably a surprise to you as it was a surprise to them.
honestly, it just makes no sense if reflecting back on it. And then the guy that we merged with basically said, look, we're growing the business operation in Basingstoke. Will you come and be a part of that? And it was a business that was 4 times the size of the one that I was in. So it was a massive opportunity. Fast forward to 23, so 2010, I became the branch manager of that brand. Fast forward 4 years from there, I then got a phone call from somebody who was connected to Purple Bricks. The business hadn't launched at that point, and I had a conversation with the owners of that, and I was one of the first 20, 25 people to join the Purple Bricks brand. Worked my way through that. So I joined as a local property expert, then I became a territory owner, then I became a regional director for the Southeast, then I moved into a regional role supporting London. And then in 2018, I met my now other half, who I have 2 kids with. We run the business together, and I relocated to Derbyshire. 10 months after Stanley was born, we launched the Avenue, and here we are now.
As if you didn't have enough on your plate having a young family, you thought, I'll start a business as well. That'll be fun. What else would you do? Why not? Why not? So you mentioned there that you were a visual learner. Looking back historically, how much of a difference do you think it's had to your sort of learning journey and sort of developing yourself over that time? The fact that sort of the penny dropped and when actually the visual stuff goes in, the audio stuff doesn't go in, for example. How much of a change on your life has that had?
Quite a big one. I learned a lot about myself in that process. I'm a big believer in self-development. I'm a big believer in the Einstein quote that, when you stop learning, you start dying. And so I'm never going to be the complete article. I will always be learning. But when I learned that visual was my thing, everything changed for me. I went from believing that I was a naughty kid at school because I got told I was a naughty kid all the time. I wasn't aggressive, just disruptive, talked a lot, class clown, I suppose. Always wanting to be the center of attention in some way, shape, or form. Um, and once I learned, actually, you're not stupid, James. You just don't learn in the framework within which the school system was designed. As soon as I nailed that, I was like, okay, we go now.
That's great. So I'm actually the complete opposite. So I am an audio learner in a big way. So podcasts for me, any kind of audio book, I will lap it up, I'll take it on board, and I'll learn from it really quickly. Try and get me
Yeah.
to read a book, 15 minutes, I'm like bored, not going in, just doing this, just looking at the pages, nothing's kind of going in. So for me, completely opposite. But one of the biggest penny drops for me is the fact that me learning that that is okay. And that's fine. I can listen to things and I learn it that way rather than looking at it. And that is absolutely fine. It's just kind of the way that I work in my mind. So that's really interesting to hear sort of the other side of the coin effectively.
Do you
So
know, it's interesting you say that, just as a quick tangent on that. I like to immerse myself in things. And so I learned something probably no more than a year ago, actually, where it was, I think it might have been Alex Hormozy. In fact, it was Alex Hormozy that said, to kind of fast track the learning,
yeah,
listen at the same time as reading. And I started doing that with and I'm like, wow, okay,
yeah.
what a difference.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that one. I've never tried it personally because I've always I'm a big fan. I've got Spotify Premium and I've got Amazon audiobooks, etc. The so I'm like I want it now. I see it's downloaded. I want to start listening to it now. And I've never got the patience to wait for the book to actually come in the mail to actually start doing that as well. But it's on the agenda. Um, so we've moved up the top north effectively up to Derbyshire. We've got a 10-month-year-old partner, all this sort of stuff going on. Why on earth start the avenue? Sounds like you were pretty kind of comfortable. You had things kind of going in the right sort of direction. Why did you wake up one day and go, let's start a new business?
Really good question. So I've always been someone, and I've known this from a very young age. I've always been someone that if I'm not into it, if I don't love it, I can't do it. And it doesn't matter whether I've got when I left the business I was managing in Basingstoke, if I reflect back, I had a great gig, good business, earning good money in my early to mid 20s. I had a great assistant manager, a brilliant work-life balance, despite the fact that I was running, a large estate agency business. Um, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. And so when I got that call, I was like, this is a new challenge. Then the inspiration behind launching the Avenue was twofold. One, I've always known I wanted to do my own thing. It's probably three things, actually. I've always wanted to do my own thing and have control of my own destiny. I've always believed it can be done better. And I suppose the third one was timing. I became more and more disillusioned by the way in which the Purple Bricks business was being run. Um, I had a vision for what I wanted to do. So I was running the Birmingham business. At the time I left, I was running the Birmingham area. So probably 30 local property experts were operating in that business. We'd built an infrastructure to support them in the local area. And it was ticking over really nicely. It was a very high performing team across the business. We were one of the top performing teams across the country on almost every metric. So again, you'd look at that and go, I was earning great money. I had a really well oiled team. And actually, my life by that point had become quite comfortable, and I had a young family, so that it could have been a very easy security blanket. But I wasn't particularly comfortable with the direction of travel with the business. I felt the way it was being led was leading it down the path it eventually went down. And for me, I couldn't stay in that environment when I wasn't happy. And so I did do some research into what was out there, had a few conversations with various models, and I just didn't feel that they were a good fit for me. And so the Avenue was born off the back of all of those things being blended together.
It's funny you say about point number one there by having that sort of feeling that you want to do your own business effectively. And I had the same feeling, exact same way. And I thought I didn't really know what the business would be necessarily, whether it be self-employed estate agency or consultancy, all that sort of stuff as well. But I knew that I wanted to have my own business, and my choices were either get on with it, put my flag in the stand and actually get on with it sort of thing, or be on my deathbed going, oh, I should have started my own business when I was 37 years old or whatever it may be sort of things. And when I used to work at the property franchise group, that's the conversation I used to have with everybody who joined the business. If you've got that desire to do your own business, it's going to be there for the rest of your life. Your choices are do something about it or regret it later on. Which way do you
Yeah,
want to go sort of thing?
100%.
So you've mentioned you've kind of grown the avenue to be a bit different and kind of you felt the direction of travel with where you were was kind of going one way and you want to go another way. So what is sort of the primary goal of the avenue then? Is it to empower agents? Is it a way for them to go on Rightmove? Is it what is it?
Yeah, so it's blended. So for me, I wholeheartedly believe, having gone through it, so I very much bought into the Purple Bricks philosophy in 2013, 2014 around changing the industry for the better. But unfortunately, the direction of travel that went in meant that you could never ever deliver on the promises that you tried to make to clients, because the more successful you became, the harder it became because of the sheer volume you had to do to get that success. Um, and so for me, one of the foundations is not about volume. We're not interested in being the biggest. We're very much and very heavily focused on how do we provide the best for our clients, the best support for our partner agents. And so none of the metrics that we measure are about being large. We don't care about pie charts. We're not interested in the volume and headcount. We don't want to be one of the many that refer to themselves as the fastest growing or the biggest. We don't care, not interested. We're very heavily focused on the best processes, platforms, frameworks, and structures for our clients and our partners.
Good. I love that. And that is I wouldn't say refreshing is probably a strong way of putting it, but it's great to hear someone coming on here and saying, this is what we do. It's not about the numbers. It's about having, the quality of people that come on board rather than just getting, I want to get to so-and-so partner agents by next Tuesday. If you've got a pulse, you're coming in sort of thing. So that's really refreshing to hear. So with that in mind then, so who's your sort of, I'll say ideal client, who's your ideal sign up? Who's your person who you would look at and go, you have got the avenue written all over you?
Yeah. So that makes me smile immediately because it's quite clear in my mind, in so much as someone with a growth mindset, someone with a can-do attitude. I actually put a post out about it on LinkedIn the last couple of days. Are you a radiator or are you a drain? Someone who is a radiator, they're warm, they're energetic, they're positive. Whereas if you're a drain, you're just sucking the life out of people with negativity. And so the growth mindset is a start point. Um, how many years experience? I know this is a very debatable topic, because I have worked with agents. I've had the luxury of working with hundreds of agents during my career, probably thousands. And I've known lots that wear that badge of honor of 30 years in the industry. And to be quite candid, they learn all they knew in the first 12 months of their career and then have just repeated it 30 times.
Yep.
So that to me is a person with 1 year's experience repeated. That's not growth and progress. That's just wearing the badge that I've had tenure.
Yep.
And that to me is not experience. And so I'm more open-minded around the experience piece. If someone's got the right attitude, the skills can be taught. There needs to be a foundation level understanding. But Team now exists as a brand that works alongside the avenue to help estate agents on that journey and potentially to help people further down the line that have no experience but have the passion, the desire, and the right basic credentials. Someone with that mindset around keeping and maintaining and continually pushing the highest possible standards. So enough is enough. I don't want to be that person that kind of stands here and says, I will never be happy, because there is a threshold to that. But I do think that we can constantly innovate, and people that will bring ideas to the table. I'm a big believer in the Japanese philosophy Kaizen,
Yep.
always make an incremental improvement. And so that's big for me. I will always invite our partners to look at the business from the outside in as best they can and give feedback around where we can continually improve. So it's really important that people are open and real and open to the idea of constructive criticism in order to develop and evolve. So I feel like at the heart of everything I'm saying there, a growth mindset and a positive attitude are probably the two key ingredients.
Yeah, perfect. And one thing you mentioned a lot on LinkedIn and on your website as well is the more sort of business owner point of view as opposed to being an estate agent point of view. So
Yeah.
how do you see the difference between those two roles underneath the Avenue umbrella, I suppose?
Yeah, so the distinct difference for me in my mind is that there aren't that many estate agency brands that exist out of the self-employed world where you are what I would call a 360-degree agent. Even if you look at the titles that people hold within the brands that they're in, they're listers, they're senior branch managers, they're negotiators. So they're not 360 degree, they're not holistic. And so my attitude is that I want to help people develop into being a 360-degree agent so they can market themselves and build a personal brand. They can engage with clients in a way whereby the client sees the value that they deliver, not just being the cheapest option or the highest number of boards in the local area or the highest vow. Um, they can nurture that journey through. They can build a community in their local community, and they can become the heart of that, so to speak. And so then what then happens is, in my mind, is they transition to business owner. Now we've got 5 steps in the avenue that an agent can go through. First one is foundations. That's the onboarding process. That's the immersion into the brand and the tools and the skills and the resources that are available. Then there's the launch period, which to me is the first 90 days. We have a blueprint in place for a partner agent. So for the first 90 days, we can all but guarantee they will build a 30K pipeline within that 90 days. And many of the agents that have gone through that recently have got to that 30K a lot quicker than 90 days. Once they hit that, they go into the growth phase of their business. So that's then scaling up from 30 to 100K. So there's frameworks that we've put in place to help people with that transition, because there's quite a lot of a transition that has to happen. Then when they get to a 6-figure pipeline, there's another transition, which then goes into the build phase, which is where they might need to start looking at what support mechanisms they need. Do they need a client exec? Do they need administrative support? What gaps do they have in their own skill set that they can plug with the support mechanisms that they need? And then the final phase is the wealth phase, where it's you've built your team. And so you're then spending almost all of your time working on your business rather than in it. And each of those phases then has a framework through which we can take a partner agent.
Love this. So we had this conversation very briefly when we first had our video call a little while ago, and I love all of that. I love the fact that hypothetically, please don't do this, but also you get hit by a bus, and the agents you bring on board can go, right, I'm working through this workbook and this process. Right, I'm graduating now to chapter 2. Right, I've done that. I'm chapter 3, etc. And it's those systems and processes within your business that are going to lift the heavy weight, so that I could come on board and run the avenue and go, right, you've just done chapter 1. Congratulations. Here's chapter 2. There's day number 1. Get on with it. See you in 6 months' time. And that is absolutely brilliant. That is exactly. So anyone listening to this in their own estate agency business, that is where you need to get to with your estate agency, that you can get hit by a bus and someone, an idiot, could come on board and start running your business from day one, sort of thing. That is really, really great to hear. So
Yeah.
let's talk through kind of the top 20%, should we say, at the avenue. So, with any business model, there's always kind of your top performers are the ones that kind of are trying to get into that top performer point of view. What do you think is the key differentiators between that people in that top 20% and the remaining 80% or so?
So I would say the top 20%, I would imagine this will probably be true across the industry and especially the self-employed segment, is 2 words: resilience and consistency. And for me, the top 20% represent those 2 words: consistent behaviors and a resilience. And a big thing, so I've just recorded yesterday, so it'll go out in the next couple of weeks on the team YouTube, but a video about, are you familiar with the emotional cycle of change?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so there's essentially 5 phases to the emotional cycle of change, and almost everybody will go through these 5 phases when they start out on something new, whether it be a new career path, a diet plan, gym routine, a new relationship even. The first step is uninformed optimism.
I do know this. Yeah,
Yeah. So you're with me. And
I'm with you.
so um, and so part of the process we go through when we're working with a new agent and onboarding them into the business is I will spend time with them going through that and helping them understand that process, because we've got one agent, she's actually in another room in the office today with me, and she rang me. She's been with us now, what, 7, 8 weeks, and she rang me a couple of weeks ago and she said, James, I think I've hit the valley of despair. So just for those listening that aren't familiar, you've got uninformed optimism, informed pessimism, valley of despair, informed optimism, and then the top level, which is your happy place, your fulfilled place. And she said, I think I've hit the valley of despair. And I was like, great, you've got there really quickly. The fact that you now recognize it means that you're not going to dwell on it. And so now we can put a plan in place to move out of it. But the fact that you got there quickly is the main thing.
Yeah, great. It's funny you say that. So it's very similar sort of thing to the Seth Godin book, The Dip, which obviously means that at some point you would think to yourself, I've had enough of this relationship, this job, this car, this whatever, lifestyle, whatever it may be, and you've got 2 choices at that stage. Either you kind of go, right, this is the dip and I can actually do something about it and I'm going to improve myself. Or you can go, this is the dip, I give up, I'm going back to having a job again, I'm getting a new car, I'm getting a new girlfriend, whatever it may be. And those are your choices there. So we're very similar in the fact that when we talk to our clients, we say that is going to come at some point. Could be 2 weeks, could be 2 years, but at some point you put your head in your hands and go, what have I done? And that is completely normal.
Yeah, 100%. But it's the recognition. And so that's the one light bulb that I've seen recently with our partners, is that, they're recognizing it. And I think I think that's any part of life. As soon as you can recognize an emotion that you don't want to feel, if you can start to really have the self-awareness, then you can start to make positive change.
Yep. It's the whole sort of chimp paradox thing, isn't it? We're kind of going in that
Absolutely.
different direction. So question for you. You didn't know this question's coming, so I've kind of pulled it out while you're talking about it, because I think it's a really important question. Is so you've got your top 20%, for example, and they're bringing in good revenue for themselves and for the business as well, and that's great. How do you protect them to make sure they see you as a future model and part of that? How do you stop them from going, thanks, James. Thanks for the last 2 years, mate. I'm actually going to go and start Chris Webber Estate Agents now around the corner. I'm going to kind of do my own thing. Thank you very much. How do you kind of protect yourself against that? How do you keep providing for those guys to make sure they stay with you?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And for me, I like to keep things as simple as I can. I've got a very busy brain. So like, when I'm speaking, there's a lot going through my head that could connect. And I'm the same in every aspect of my life. I self-diagnosed, so I don't know if this is actually fact, but I believe I may have ADHD, which I'm comfortable with. It's a superpower. And so I look at it and go, there are two things there. One is a vision, and two is culture. And people don't leave a good culture. People don't leave if the vision is aligned with where they want to go. And so they're the two keys for me.
Yeah, great. I love that. So one of my friends has a personal training business and he used to have a churn rate of about 15% from memory. He then started doing client drinks on a Friday night at the end of the month, and his churn rate went down to 5% because everyone felt like they're in this together, and they felt that when they left him, they left the group, and all this sort of thing became a big drama sort of thing. So by having that culture and that sort of, we're all in this together, guys, sort of thing, people are really reluctant to leave in that situation.
100%.
So it's no secret that in the world of self-employed estate agencies, the fall through rate, the attrition rate, the percentage of estate agents going to the wall, however you phrase it, is high, to say the least. How at the Avenue do you stop that happening? I mean, it's going to happen at some point from some people. We can't make everyone work, unfortunately, but how do you minimize that as much as possible?
So I guess it again comes back to that simplicity piece for me. And we've look, we're not perfect. We've had partners that have joined us and we've parted ways with, whether that be by mutual consent or whatever, or otherwise. Um, and it's really, really getting clear on who is a good fit. So when we're going through the process at the beginning, we had a conversation with someone recently. They filled in the application form to talk to us about partnership on the website. Holly, who runs our operations, reached out to them just to have an initial conversation. And the way they interacted was very much a case of, this is what I want, this is how I want to work. I'll let you know when I want to join and when I want to go live. And we're like, well, that's not how we work at the Avenue. Like, it's a two-way street. This is a partnership. So there needs to be some elements of this that are suitable to us as well. And you might not be a good fit. And he honestly, Holly said he could have practically fallen off the chair he was sat on when I said it. Because, and then when he sort of came back around out of this dizzy spell of like complete shock, he said to Holly, no one has said that to me. Like, no one has actually told me that there are almost boundaries coming the other way as well. And that to me just tells me that the standard's not high enough. So when it comes to the attrition, we go through a 3 to 4 step process when we first meet with a partner. So they'll meet me or Jack on our own, then vice versa. Then they'll speak to one of our leadership team, and then they'll speak to one of our partner agents who is immersed in the culture and the values and everything else. And if we all agree that that person's a good fit, then we go to the next step. And we then have an expectations meeting. So it's a case of, here's what you can expect from us: the support, the resources, the frameworks, the back end, the admin, the compliance, all that sort of support. But equally in turn, this is what we expect from you. These are the standards that we uphold. This is the marketing. This is the kind of attitude and the contribution to the wider group that we would expect from what we would call an elite level partner to the Avenue.
I really like that. And Yeah, that's refreshing to hear. And I think by having that stage process as well, not only do you give yourself a time to kind of work out what that person's about, but also on the flip side of the coin, they will see that you're a thorough, business and individual as well. And actually, this is going to be a stage process coming through. So rather than kind of just throwing it together and hopefully it all kind of sticks to the wall sort of thing, this is the process you're going to go through from sort of recruitment side of things, step one, step two, step three, step four. Then you're going to start and you're going to go on step five, step six, step seven. So I think that probably having that sort of mindset, I'd imagine, attracts people more to you rather than just going, yeah, you've got a pulse and you can start on Tuesday. Welcome aboard.
Well, it's the Daniel Priestley thing of with or without you energy. You know,
Yep.
we are going to continue to do what we do. We are going to continue to focus on being the best versions of ourselves that we possibly can be, whether people join us or not. That's a given. So if someone is a really, really good fit, then fantastic, let's go. If they're not, that's also okay. Someone else will be a better fit for them. And so I also believe that from their perspective, it gives them the reassurance that they're not joining a tin pot operation that will just throw anything at the wall and hope it sticks. That this business is committed to taking them on a journey and supporting them in every way they possibly can. Because why would I commit so much of my business's time to that one person if I wasn't then going to commit beyond that point? I also want to say, because I've made reference to kind of frameworks and processes and step-by-step processes a lot, and given the type of character that I am like the antichrist of process. And so I just want to share that I really had to embrace the idea because all of these ideas were in mine and Jack's head. And we're like, we need to get this out and developed and systemized. But it's not like it's a military operation in that respect. It's just that we believe, why should someone join us and put in all of the hard yards learning everything that we've already learned when they can simply go plug, play, win?
Yeah. Well, in my eyes, it's always, I mean, kind of taking it to the next level. But if you were buying a franchise, for example, and you were parting with 10, 20, 30,000 pounds for a franchise for any model, what's the point of buying a franchise and then going, actually, I want to do it my own way? You're like, no, 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 no. You're
You
opening
don't
up.
go to McDonald's and start making pizzas, do you?
Exactly, exactly. You wouldn't go to McDonald's and go, right, we're doing hot dogs now, guys. I've got a great idea. That's going to work. But you're like, no, no, no. We do burgers, we do fries, we do milkshakes. This works. You'll make a lot of money just by doing that. So by having that
Um,
framework there, you just plug and play, as you say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So if there was one bit of advice you could give to estate agents listening to this to improve their business in the shortest timescale possible, what do you reckon that would be?
uh, the thing that's probably made the significant, just one.
Just one.
Chris, can I have two? Can I be greedy?
Okay,
Everything has
we'll go to. All right, it's a
twos.
Friday. We were okay.
I have to work in twos and threes. So frameworks, build out what your business looks like, in fact, I scrap that. Build it out, not what it looks like today, but what it needs to look like. Where are you wanting it to be? Where does it fit in the market? Who is your target audience? Who's your ideal client? Build it then around that. Who is it you're trying to talk to? Then build the framework. So like you said earlier, someone could come in, an alien could land on Earth, come into your business, pick up this playbook, which is what we've called ours, pick up the playbook and go, I know how to be an estate agent. And I also know how to do it really, really well. And so that would be one. But without brilliant culture, the playbook may as well not exist because you need to have the people that want to go on the journey. They want to be on the bus. And so they're the two. Build great culture, create process that people can make their lives easy by following.
Good. And if anyone wants a shameless book plug with regard to creating processes, it's not my book, don't worry. The E-Myth is a very good one and one I recommended to yourself last time we had to catch up as well. It
Yeah.
sounds like as I said last time, it sounds like you've pretty much written it already. So you're well on the way there. So the
You
E-Myth is
know,
about exactly that. It's about setting systems and processes up in your business. So if you got run over by a bus, it would keep on flowing and it would keep on going without you, sort of thing.
yeah, you did mention it, and it's one of the ones I haven't. It's always been on my radar. A lot of people have mentioned. I've never read it. Ours was built off the back of Traction, but similar sort of principle.
Absolutely. So talk to me about Project Peak Performance. Is
Yeah,
it a bunch of guys running up a hill?
I love that. No, it's not. Do you know Project Peak Performance is about holistic performance. So it's not about, we've got Rob and Ian who are ultra runners. Alex is a big fan of running. Me and Dave, not so much. But it's about rounded. So mental well-being, physical well-being. We're all dads, we're all parents. So, bringing up our future our little proteges, so to speak, and making sure that we can be as rounded as we can as husbands and partners, business leaders. So it's about a holistic approach to finding peak performance in ourselves.
And how does that look on sort of the day to day? Do you guys have like a monthly catch up, or do you do a what does that look like kind of on the weekly?
Yeah, so we have a podcast. We have obviously the YouTube channel, whereby we recently did an episode with a guy called Stephen James Kopp, who is a psychological life coach, basically, but has dealt with billionaires, millionaires, actresses, actors, musicians. So lots of high level clients, and we filmed that for the first time in a much more cinematic way. The engagement's been fantastic, but his message delivery is insanely good. So we have the podcast, we have the Facebook group. We actually had a meeting this morning as a collective to just, map out the next year for the project. So it will start to include events, retreats, online coaching and courses. So it's got this scalability where if there's anyone out there that is on this pathway where they run a business, they're, let's say, middle-aged. I classify myself sadly now as middle-aged at 37 with 2 kids.
Oh mate, I'm 38. Don't say that.
So you and I are in that camp. And so, but wanting to ensure they can be the best versions of themselves
Yeah,
on all levels, then the community that we're building is a great place for you to come and join.
good. And if that sounds of interest to anybody, who should they reach out to? Yourself, Ian Macbeth? Who's the go-to?
Yes, so the group is me, Ian Macbeth, Rob Brady, Alex Willis, Dave Gibbons. Reach out to any one of us. Find us by searching Project Peak Performance on any of your favorite social media channels. And yeah, happily get you involved.
And the ultra marathons and running up the hill is optional, just to be clear.
That is optional should you wish. Yeah, that's very much Rob and Ian's bag.
Yeah, quite. I'm going to be doing an ultra marathon anytime too. Excellent. James, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been absolutely brilliant, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.